The message arrived at midnight, Earth time. Ambassador Taiho Park stood alone in his office, reading the glowing words on his screen for the third time. The Galactic Council had summoned humanity to answer for their crimes. 17 violations of galactic law, they claimed, illegal expansion, unauthorized colonization, disrespect for ancient treaties. Taiho closed his eyes and took a slow breath. He had served as Earth's voice among the stars for 15 years. He knew what this summons really meant. The Council was afraid. The door behind him slid open. Admiral Yuna Kang walked in without waiting for permission. She never did. Her uniform was perfect, her black hair pulled back tight, and her eyes sharp like a hawk watching its prey. "You saw it," she said. It was not a question. "I saw it." Yuna moved to stand beside him, looking at the message. 17 violations. That is impressive. I did not know we were so busy breaking their precious laws. We were not. Taiho turned to face her. Those colonies we built, they were on dead worlds, abandoned for thousands of years. No one wanted them until we made them green again. Of course, Yuna's voice was bitter. We committed the crime of being useful. The Council cannot allow that. The door opened again. Dr. Minho Bayek entered, carrying a tablet filled with data. He was a thin man with tired eyes and messy hair. He spent more time with machines than people, but his mind was sharper than any blade. "I finished the analysis," Minho said. "You need to see this." He placed the tablet on Taiho's desk and pulled up a series of charts and documents. They showed centuries of Council history. Trade agreements, military treaties, population records of dozens of species. Every young species that joined the Council followed the same pattern, Minho explained. First, they were welcomed with open arms. Then, slowly, they were given restrictions, technology limits, breeding permits, travel bans. Within 300 years, they became completely dependent on the older species. Yuna leaned closer to the screen. They keep them weak on purpose. Yes, Minho nodded. The Council is not a government. It is a cage. And now humanity is growing too fast. We are too smart, too stubborn. They cannot control us the way they control the others. Taiho stared at the data. He had suspected this truth for years. Now he had proof. They will try to put us in that cage. They will do more than try, Yuna said. They will demand it. And when we refuse, they will threaten war. The room fell silent. Through the window, Earth glowed blue and white in the darkness of space. 8 billion people lived down there. They had survived ice and fire, disease and war. They had climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. They did not know that tonight. Their future hung by a thread. The final member of the delegation arrived an hour later. Commander Hana Lim was in charge of security. She was small in size, but large in presence. People said she could sense danger before it happened. Looking at her calm face and steady hands, Taiho believed it. "The ship is ready," Hana reported. "I have prepared for every situation we might face." "Every situation?" Yuna raised an eyebrow. "That is a bold claim." Hana allowed herself a small smile. "Humanity did not survive extinction events by hoping for the best, Admiral. We prepare for the worst. Always." The next morning, the delegation boarded the diplomatic vessel Horizon's Edge. It was a beautiful ship, built for speed and elegance. But beneath its polished surface, it carried secrets. Backup communication systems, emergency escape pods, hidden weapons that would only be used if everything else failed. The journey to the Council station took 6 days. Taiho spent most of that time in his quarters, reading everything he could about the species they would face. The Kalari Empire, proud and aggressive. The Sindari Federation, careful and calculating. Dozens of smaller species caught between the great powers like leaves in a storm. Yuna trained with her guards. Minho studied technical systems. Hana watched everything and everyone, her eyes never resting. On the final day, the council station appeared on their screens. It was massive, larger than any human city. Hundreds of ships surrounded it like insects around a hive. The station had floated in this spot for 10,000 years. Empires had risen and fallen, but the council remained. Unchanged, unmoved, certain of its own power. The horizon's edge received landing permission and descended toward the docking bay. Through the windows, Taeho could see alien faces watching them. Some looked curious, most looked hostile, a few looked afraid. Good, he thought. They should be afraid. The delegation walked down the boarding ramp together. Taeho in front, Yuna at his right, Minho at his left, and Hana behind them. 4 humans against the collected might of a galaxy. A tall creature with gray skin and 6 eyes approached them. It wore the robes of a council official. "Ambassador Park," it said, its voice cold. "The council has been waiting for you." "Then we should not keep them waiting any longer," Taeho replied. They followed the official through long corridors filled with aliens who whispered and pointed. Taeho heard fragments of their conversations. Primitive species, dangerous animals, pests that breed too fast. He kept his face calm and his back straight. Let them whisper. Let them point. Soon they would understand that humanity was not like the others. They had not come to beg. They had come to show the galaxy what humans were made of. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. The ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top. The walls were covered with the flags of 1,000 species, most of them long dead or forgotten. In the center, a circular platform held seats for the major powers. Around them, rising like mountains, were the viewing galleries where lesser species watched in silence. Taeho stood at the accused platform. It was lower than all the other seats, forcing him to look up at his judges. A clever design, a reminder of his place. High Arbiter Velos sat at the highest seat. He was ancient, even by alien standards. His skin was the color of old bone, and his 4 arms were folded across his chest. He had led the council for 3 centuries. No one challenged him. No one dared. "Ambassador Park of Earth," Velos spoke, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You stand accused of 17 violations against galactic law. Your species has expanded without permission. You have colonized worlds that belong to the Council. You have developed weapons that threaten the peace of all civilized beings." Taeho listened without expression. Behind him, he felt Yuna's anger like heat from a fire. He hoped she could control it. "How does your species answer these charges?" Velos asked. Taeho stepped forward. "High Arbiter, the worlds we colonized were empty. They had been abandoned for over 8,000 years. Under Section 447 of the Council's own charter, abandoned worlds may be claimed by any species willing to develop them." He pulled out a data chip and held it up. "This contains all legal documents proving our right to those colonies. I request that the Council review this evidence." Velos did not even look at the chip. "The Council has already reviewed the matter. Your claims are rejected." "Rejected?" Taeho kept his voice steady. "Without examination?" "We do not need to examine human lies." The voice came from Delegate Morath of the Kalari Empire. He was a massive creature, covered in thick scales the color of dried blood. His species had conquered half the galaxy before the Council forced them to stop. They had never forgiven that insult. Morath rose from his seat. "Let me tell this chamber what humans truly are. They are vermin. They breed like insects. They spread across space like a disease. In just 200 years, they have gone from throwing rocks at each other to threatening our borders." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Taiho saw heads nodding in the galleries above. They have no culture, Morath continued. No history worth remembering. They are aggressive, violent, and impossible to control. If we do not stop them now, they will swallow the galaxy whole. Admiral Yuna could not stay silent any longer. She stepped beside Taiho, her eyes locked on Morath. 200 years, she said. In 200 years, we went from our first satellite to faster-than-light travel. What did your species accomplish in that time, delegate? You were still fighting the same war you started 1,000 years before. Morath's scales flushed darker. You dare speak to me, female? I dare speak truth. Yuna's voice was ice. You call us violent. Your empire burned entire worlds to ash. You call us aggressive. We have never started a war in space. We have only finished the ones others started with us. The chamber erupted in noise. Species shouted at each other. Some demanded Yuna be removed. Others called for silence. High Arbiter Velos raised one of his 4 hands. Slowly, the noise died down. The human female will be silent, or she will be removed. Taiho placed a gentle hand on Yuna's arm. She stepped back, but her eyes still burned. From a lower seat, Counselor Thessa of the Sindari Federation watched carefully. She was slender, with silver skin and large dark eyes. Unlike the others, she did not look at the humans with hate. She looked at them with something closer to respect. Thessa raised her hand. High Arbiter, perhaps we should listen to the human evidence. Our laws require fair examination of all claims. Velos turned his cold gaze upon her. The Sindari would do well to remember their place. Your federation exists because the Council allows it. Thessa lowered her hand, but did not lower her eyes. The message was clear. There would be no fair hearing. The outcome had been decided before the humans even arrived. Velos spoke again. The Council has determined the following terms for humanity. First, you will abandon all colonies in the Rim territories. Second, you will surrender all advanced propulsion technology to the Council. Third, you will accept population limits on your homeworld and all remaining settlements. Taiho felt his heart grow cold. These were not terms. These were chains. Accept them, and humanity would become slaves within a generation. You have 1 day to accept these terms, Velos said. If you refuse, the Council will take necessary action to protect galactic peace. The session ended. The human delegation was escorted out through a side door away from the crowds. As they walked, Dr. Minho moved close to Taiho and slipped a small datapad into his hand. I found it, Minho whispered. Everything we needed. Taiho glanced at the screen. His eyes widened slightly, then his face became calm again. He now had the final piece of the puzzle. The Council thought they were dealing with another weak, frightened species. They thought humans would bow and beg and accept their chains. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The next morning, the human delegation returned to the Grand Chamber. Every seat was filled. Word had spread across the station that something important was about to happen. Species who normally hated each other sat side by side, united by their desire to watch humanity fall. High Arbiter Velos looked down from his throne with satisfaction. He had done this many times before. Young species always resisted at first. They always made bold speeches about freedom and rights. But in the end, they all bent the knee. Fear was a powerful teacher. Ambassador Park, Velos announced, the Council awaits your answer. Does humanity accept our terms? Taiho stood at the center of the chamber. He wore a simple black suit with no medals or decorations. Behind him stood Yuna, Minho, and Hana in a straight line. Their faces showed nothing. Silence stretched through the chamber. Every eye watched the small human at the bottom of the great room. Taiho looked up at Velos. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. It reached every corner of the chamber without effort. High Arbiter, honored delegates, yesterday, this council gave humanity a choice: accept your terms or face consequences. He paused. Today, I give you our answer. He took a breath. We reject your terms. All of them. Completely. Gasps echoed through the galleries. Delegate Morath laughed out loud. The little creature thinks he can refuse? Taiho continued as if Morath had not spoken. Furthermore, the United Earth government withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We no longer recognize the Council's authority over human space, human citizens, or human affairs. The chamber erupted. Shouts of anger and disbelief filled the air. Velos raised all four hands, demanding silence. It took nearly a minute for the noise to die down. You foolish child, Velos said, his voice dripping with contempt. Do you understand what you are doing? You are declaring war against the entire galaxy. No. Taiho shook his head. We are declaring independence. We did not start this conflict. We do not want it, but we will not accept chains, no matter how politely you offer them. Morath rose from his seat, his massive body trembling with rage. You think your tiny fleet can stand against the Kalari Empire? We will crush you in a single day. Your worlds will burn. Your people will be slaves. Admiral Yuna stepped forward. Every guard in the chamber tensed, but she made no move toward her weapon. She simply stood beside Taiho and looked up at Morath with a smile. You speak of crushing us, she said. Let me tell you about my species, delegate. 10,000 years ago, we were prey, weak little creatures hiding from predators in the dark. Do you know what we did? She let the question hang in the air. We learned. We adapted. We built weapons from stone and fire. We killed the predators. We killed the ice ages. We killed the plagues. We killed everything that tried to end us. Her smile faded, replaced by something harder. And we are still here. The chamber had gone quiet. Something in Yuna's voice made even the boldest warriors uncomfortable. In the past month, Yuna continued, while your council played political games, human fleets have been busy. The Rim territories are now protected by defensive networks your ships cannot penetrate without losing half their number. Our shipyards are producing vessels at a rate your analysts said was impossible. She looked directly at Morath. Attack us if you wish, delegate, but understand this. We are not the weak, frightened creatures you expected. Every human soldier, every human pilot, every human citizen would rather die free than live as your slaves. Can you say the same about your warriors? Are they willing to die for your pride? Morath said nothing. His scales had gone pale. Dr. Minho spoke next. We have also collected evidence of the Council's true activities. Centuries of manipulation, technology theft, forced population control, economic slavery disguised as trade agreements. He held up a data chip. This information will be released to every species in the galaxy within the hour. Let them see what kind of organization they have trusted with their futures. High Arbiter Velos stood. His ancient body shook with fury. You would not dare. That information is classified. Protected. Protected by whom? Taiho asked quietly. The Council. We just told you, High Arbiter. We no longer recognize your authority. Velos opened his mouth to speak, but Taiho raised his hand. We are finished here. There is nothing more to discuss. The human delegation turned as one. They walked toward the great doors of the chamber. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Halfway to the exit, Taiho stopped. He reached up and removed the translation device from his ear. Yuna, Minho, and Hana did the same. They placed the devices on the floor, a final gesture of separation. Then they continued walking. Behind them, chaos exploded. Delegates screamed at each other. Morath demanded immediate military action. Velos called for order, but no one listened. Counselor Thessa sat quietly, watching the humans leave with something like hope in her dark eyes. The great doors opened. The human delegation walked through. The doors closed behind them with a sound like the end of an era. In the corridor, Hana allowed herself a small sigh of relief. That went well. Yuna laughed, a sharp sound in the empty hallway. We just declared war on the galaxy, Commander. I would hate to see your definition of going badly. Taiho said nothing. He walked steadily toward the docking bay, his mind already on the challenges ahead. They had thrown the first stone. Now they had to be ready for the avalanche. But deep in his heart, he felt something he had not felt in years. Pride. Humans had stood in the heart of galactic power and refused to bow. Whatever came next, that moment could never be taken from them. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity said no. The Grand Chamber had seen many historic moments in its 10,000 years. Treaties signed, wars declared, empires born and destroyed. But it had never seen anything like this. The moment the doors closed behind the humans, order collapsed. Delegate Morath stormed down from his seat, pushing aside anyone in his path. His roars echoed off the ancient walls. Attack! We must attack now, before they escape! Speaker Orin, the neutral mediator, tried to restore calm. His species had evolved to be peacemakers. They felt physical pain when surrounded by conflict. Right now, Orin looked like he was dying. Please, honored delegates, we must discuss this rationally. Military action without proper planning would be disastrous. The human female was bluffing, Morath snarled. Their defensive networks are nothing. Our fleets will sweep them aside like dust. Will they? A new voice cut through the noise. Counselor Thessa of the Sindari Federation stood, her silver skin catching the chamber's lights. How certain are you, delegate? Certain enough to bet your entire fleet? Morath turned on her. You dare question Kalari military strength? I question Kalari intelligence. Thessa did not flinch. We have all watched humanity for 2 centuries. They created nuclear weapons and did not destroy themselves. They landed on their moon using computers weaker than our children's toys. They built faster-than-light drives in a single generation. She looked around the chamber. Does anyone here truly believe they have not prepared for this moment? Murmurs spread through the galleries. Doubt was beginning to grow. High Arbiter Velos raised his voice. The Sindari will be silent. This is not a debate. The humans have defied the Council. They must be punished. Thessa's dark eyes met his. Then the Sindari Federation will not participate. We withdraw our fleets from any action against humanity. The chamber gasped. No species had ever refused the Council so openly. Velos's face twisted with rage. You would betray 10,000 years of unity? For these primitives? I would protect my people from a war we cannot win. Thessa gathered her robes and walked toward the exit. The Sindari wish humanity well. May they succeed where others have failed. She left. The doors closed behind her. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, other delegates began to rise. The Varathi Collective, the Independent Systems Alliance, the Merchant Guild of Talos. One by one, they left the chamber. Not all of them supported humanity. Many simply did not want to die for the Council's pride. Morath watched them go with growing horror. Half his allies had abandoned him before the first shot was fired. Outside the chamber, things were even worse. News of the human walkout had spread across the station like wildfire. Screens in every corridor showed Ambassador Taiho's calm face, his final words playing on repeat. We reject your terms. We no longer recognize your authority. On the lower levels, where the poorer species lived and worked, something strange was happening. People were cheering. For centuries, these species had suffered under Council rules. They had been told they were too weak, too primitive, too unimportant to matter. Now they had seen a young species stand up and say no. Riots began in the market district. Workers refused to serve Council officials. Shops closed their doors. A statue of High Arbiter Velos was torn down by a crowd of mixed species, all of them chanting words in broken human English they had learned from broadcasts. Freedom, dignity, no more chains. In the Council's Intelligence Center, officers scrambled to process incoming reports. The news was all bad. Human civilian ships are evacuating Council space, one officer reported. Organized convoys, they started moving 3 days ago. 3 days? Velos demanded. They planned this from the beginning? It appears so, High Arbiter. Another officer spoke up. Trade analysis complete. Humans control 62% of refined titanium exports in the Rim. They also supply 40% of medical compounds to 17 Council species. If they cut off trade... He did not need to finish. Everyone understood. The Council had grown dependent on human productivity without even realizing it. Morath slammed his fist against a console. Then we take what we need by force. With what ships? Speaker Oren asked quietly. He had followed them from the chamber, still hoping for peace. Half our military allies just left. The remainder cannot challenge human defenses alone. Your own War Council confirmed this an hour ago. Morath rounded on Velos. This is your fault. You promised this would be simple. You said they would surrender like all the others. They should have surrendered. Velos's voice had lost its power. He sounded old now, tired. Every species surrenders. That is how it has always been. Perhaps that is the problem, Oren said. Perhaps we forgot that not every species is the same. We built a system based on fear and control. We never considered what would happen when someone refused to be afraid. Across the station, smaller species were making their own decisions. Some locked themselves in their quarters, afraid of what came next. Others began packing their belongings, planning to follow humanity's example. A few brave souls tried to contact human ships, begging for passage to human space. The council that had ruled for 10,000 years was breaking apart, not from military defeat, not from economic collapse, but from something far more dangerous. Hope. The humans had shown the galaxy that the council could be challenged, that freedom was possible, that the old chains could be broken. In his private chambers, Velos sat alone in the dark. He had built his entire life around the Council's power. Now he watched that power crumble. Outside his window, a human ship rose from the docking bay. It was the horizon's edge, carrying the delegation home. Running lights blinked against the stars as it turned toward human space. Velos watched until it disappeared into the darkness. The humans were gone, but nothing would ever be the same. 3 weeks had passed since the walkout. The horizon's edge emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space, greeted by a sight that made even Admiral Yuna smile. 17 warships flew in formation around them. Their hulls gleamed under distant starlight. Thousands of smaller vessels moved in organized patterns. Patrol routes that covered every approach. Beyond them, the first of the Rim colonies hung in space like a blue-green jewel. "Welcome home, Ambassador," Commander Hana said quietly. Home. Taiho had not allowed himself to think about home during those long days at the Council station. There had been no room for sentiment. Now, looking at the ships and stations his people had built, he felt something warm in his chest. They had made it. Against all odds, they had made it back. The celebration on Earth lasted 3 days. Every city, every town, every small village joined in. People danced in streets. Strangers hugged each other. Children waved flags while their parents cried with relief and pride. Ambassador Taiho Park addressed the United Nations Space Command from the Great Hall in Geneva. Billions watched on screens across the solar system and beyond. "We did not seek this conflict," he said. "We went to the Council hoping for peace, for fair treatment, for simple respect. They offered us chains instead." He paused, letting the words settle. We chose freedom. The hall erupted in applause. But our work is not finished, Taiho continued. We have left the council, but we have not left the galaxy. There are other species out there who share our values, who believe in freedom and dignity, who want something better than the council's shadow. He raised his hand toward the stars visible through the great windows. We will find them. We will build new alliances based on trust, not fear. And together, we will create something the galaxy has never seen. The applause lasted nearly 10 minutes. In the weeks that followed, change came faster than anyone expected. The classified data Dr. Minho had released spread across the galaxy like a storm. Species that had trusted the Council for centuries now learned the truth. Secret population controls, stolen technology, economic manipulation designed to keep them weak. Some species denied the evidence, others pretended they had always known. But many, especially the younger races, began to question everything they had been taught. The Sindari Federation was the first to reach out. Counselor Thessa herself led their diplomatic mission to Earth. She walked through the streets of Geneva without guards, surrounded by curious humans who had never seen her species in person. We should have spoken sooner, Thessa told Taiho at their first official meeting. We knew the council was corrupt. We were simply too afraid to act. Fear is understandable, Taiho replied. What matters is what you do when the fear passes. The Sindari Federation signed a treaty of friendship with humanity that evening. Not an alliance, not yet, but a promise to work together, to share knowledge, to stand for common values. Others followed. The Varathi, the independent systems, even a few species still officially loyal to the Council began secret communications with human diplomats. The galaxy was shifting, slowly but surely. Not everyone was happy. The Kalari Empire moved their fleets closer to human space, testing defenses, looking for weakness. They found none. Admiral Yuna had spent the past 3 weeks strengthening every station, every patrol route, every early warning system. Let them come, she told her officers. We will be ready. But the Kalari did not come. Without council support, without allies willing to share the cost, even Delegate Morath's pride could not justify a war they might lose. High Arbiter Velos faced a vote of no confidence in the Grand Chamber. He had ruled for 3 centuries. In the end, he lost by a margin of 7-1. His replacement, a younger official named Karen, promised reform and dialogue. Whether she meant it remained to be seen. Across the galaxy, smaller species began demanding rights they had never dared ask for before. Population controls were challenged, trade agreements were renegotiated. Colonial governments that had served as council puppets were replaced by elected leaders. The council still existed, it was still powerful. But its grip on the galaxy had weakened in ways that could never be fully repaired. On a quiet evening, Ambassador Taiho stood at a viewport on the Geneva station, watching colony ships depart for new worlds. Each ship carried thousands of people, enough to build new cities, new nations, new dreams. Admiral Yuna joined him, holding 2 cups of tea. She handed one to Taiho and stood beside him in comfortable silence. "Do you think it was worth it?" she asked finally. "All the risk, all the fear, standing alone against everything." Taiho took a sip of tea. It was warm and slightly bitter, exactly how he liked it. "I think we did not have a choice. The council was never going to let us grow. They would have strangled us slowly. So gently we might not have noticed until it was too late. So we strangled them first. We showed them we could not be strangled." Taiho smiled slightly. "There is a difference." Yuna nodded. She watched a colony ship fire its engines and begin its long journey outward. "What happens now?" "Now we build." Taiho's eyes reflected the distant stars. "We make allies. We grow stronger. We show the galaxy that there is another way." "And if the council comes for us?" "Then we fight." His voice was calm but certain. We fight until the last human draws breath. We fight because that is who we are. That is who we have always been. Yuna raised her cup in a small toast. To humanity, then. Stubborn as always. Stubborn as always, Taiho agreed. They drank in silence as the stars turned slowly overhead. Far away, on 100 worlds, humans were building new homes, raising children, and dreaming of futures that would have been impossible just a month before. The galaxy was changing, and at the heart of that change stood a small species from a small world who had simply refused to kneel. This was not the end of their story. It was barely the beginning. But whatever came next, one thing was certain. Humanity would face it standing tall, as they always had, as they always would,